Jason had once dreamed of making it big. He was full of hope, filled with visions of success, and a heart that beat with the promise of something more. But life, as it often does, had other plans. The world, the very place he had believed in, turned its back on him. He was abandoned by those he trusted most, left alone in the harsh reality of failure. The faces he once relied on vanished, leaving him to face the cold, empty world with nothing but his own despair. His bank account was empty, every dollar spent in the pursuit of a dream that now seemed so distant. His hopes, once vibrant and alive, lay shattered at his feet, like glass too broken to be mended. His heart, too, had turned cold with the pain of rejection, each blow driving him deeper into a darkness he couldn't escape. Every door he knocked on slammed shut. Every call for help was met with silence. His efforts, no matter how relentless, always ended in disappointment. Jason began to feel like a ghost, invisible in a world that no longer cared about him. His existence seemed meaningless, swallowed by the relentless tide of failure. But beneath it all, there was a fire. It burned weak, but it still burned. It was the fire of something deeper, resilience, the will to rise again, to fight against the odds, to keep going when the world says enough. That fire had not been extinguished. Not yet. And maybe, just maybe, it was enough to ignite something new. One night, Jason sat on a park bench, the cold breeze brushing against his face as he stared at the city lights. The glowing streets felt so distant, almost like a life he would never reach. He wondered if he would ever shine again, if he could ever find his way back from the darkness. The voices in his head whispered, "You're not good enough. You'll never make it." They echoed in his mind, like a broken record, each word a reminder of his failures, of everything he hadn't been able to achieve. But then, in that silence, another voice emerged. It was soft at first, almost drowned out by the noise of self-doubt. But it grew stronger with every passing second. What if you fight back? What if you stop waiting for a miracle and become one? Jason's heart skipped a beat. It was the voice of something he had ignored for years, the voice of his own strength, his own will to rise. He clenched his fists, feeling the fire within him ignite once more. He had two choices before him: stay broken or rise from the ashes. That night, under the glow of the city lights, Jason made a vow. No more excuses. No more self-pity. He wasn't going to wait for life to hand him anything anymore. He was going to fight for it. He was going to rewrite his story. The battle wasn't easy. Every morning, Jason forced himself to wake up before sunrise, the darkness still clinging to the world as he rose from his bed. He pushed his body, his mind, beyond limits he didn't know he had. Each day felt like a fight against everything, but he didn't back down. He trained relentlessly, pushing through exhaustion. He studied obsessively, reading, learning, growing, never satisfied, never stopping. He worked like a man possessed, driven by a hunger to prove the world wrong. The world still doubted him. People laughed at his dreams, mocking the very idea of him ever making it. But Jason didn't care. He was no longer afraid of their judgment. Pain became his teacher. He embraced it, learned from it. Rejection became his fuel, propelling him forward when everything seemed impossible. And discipline? That became his new best friend. The one thing he could always count on. He failed 100 times. But each failure only made him stronger. He refused to break. Each setback was not the end. It was just another step forward on the road to something greater. And in the silence of his struggle, Jason realized something. Success wasn't about luck. It wasn't about waiting for the perfect moment. No, it was about relentless, unshakable determination. It was about refusing to give up, no matter what. Months turned into years, and Jason kept building, kept grinding. Each day, he pushed forward, inching closer to the success that had once seemed so far out of reach. The same people who had once doubted him now watched in awe. His name started making waves. His work began getting recognized. The world, once blind to his efforts, slowly began to notice. The doors that had once slammed shut in his face were now wide open. But Jason didn't do it for validation. No, he didn't need the applause of the world. He did it to prove to himself that that he was more than his failures, that he could rise from the ashes of his past, stronger than ever before. He had turned his pain into power, his rejection into the fuel to keep going. Every setback, every moment of doubt, had shaped him into the person standing before the world now. And now he was unstoppable. The weight of his past no longer held him down. He had become everything he once dreamed of, and more. One day, Jason stood on a massive stage, the bright lights shining down on him as he looked out at thousands of people, all gathered to hear his story. His heart raced, but a smile tugged at his lips. He had once been that broken man, lost, forgotten, cast aside by the world. But now, he stood here, stronger than ever, having fought his way back, step by step, day by day. As he gripped the microphone, his hands steady with the weight of everything he had overcome, he looked into the crowd. His voice, steady and strong, echoed in the vast arena. I was broken, rejected, and counted out. But I didn't give up. I turned my pain into fuel, and the world watched me rise. The audience erupted into applause, their cheers deafening, but Jason knew the real victory wasn't the fame, the recognition, or the applause. The real victory was that he had conquered himself. He had faced his demons, his doubts, and his failures, and had emerged victorious. This is the story of those who refuse to give up. Those who rise when the world expects them to fall. If you're struggling, remember, your pain is not the end. It's just the beginning.